I'm Sam Timus, director of Classic Gardens Limited. When I was like 11, 12, I'll be doing like Saturdays, helping, going out on jobs. I was just learning the sort of cogs of the business, and that really gave me the bug for it. In the early days, I was actually splitting my time 50-50 between gardening and landscaping. Very quickly, I sort of noticed that actually, as I'm building both, I can't be on both. So I then started trying to build teams, and we got involved with these national companies. Something that we actually got involved in through that was something like the Queen's funeral. Got a call from one of the guys. He said, look, we need trustworthy teams. Go down to Buckingham Palace. I thought it was a hoax call at first. He was like, do you want to go to Buckingham Palace? It was a proud moment to be able to do that. A lot of people, and again, Instagram is rife with it, they're videoing themselves just finishing up at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Oh, we're hustling, and these people are so overrun because they don't have the team behind them. They're trying to do so much all themselves that they are working till 10, 11 o'clock at night. One of the most important things that I learned to say in business is the word no. Everyone's a yes man when you first start. Oh, can you do this? Yeah. Oh, can you do this? Yeah. Oh, no, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. You run out of time in your diary.
What about you? And welcome to another episode of Roots to Revenue. We're going to talk about a taboo subject in gardening and lawn care. Now, this episode is going to be full of actionable tips that you can take away from this episode today. A lot of people think that subcontracting, you can't build a business on subcontracting. However, we brought in Sam from Classic Gardens Limited, and he's going to tell you exactly how he built his business through subcontracting. Now, before we get into that, let me tell you about the sponsor. The channel is sponsored by Jobber. Jobber is my go-to software. It does all my scheduling, my invoicing and my quoting. If you're a busy business owner and you don't have any time and you want to free up more time in your business so you can earn more money, then check out the link in the video description for our exclusive Jobber discount.
To get your unique Premier Lawns discount, it's premierlawns.link/jobber. Sam isn't just talking the talk, he's walking the walk with a thriving subcontracting business and is here to share his story. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, you're right. I'm Sam Titmus, director of Classic Gardens Limited, based in Hertfordshire, so Potters Bar. And yeah, we do commercial grounds maintenance predominantly. Again, like you say, started off subcontracting for some of the big national firms, and now we've grown into our own commercial work, sustaining it ourselves.
Tell us a little bit the size of your team.
So there's 12 of us involved in the business. So that's 10 operational guys, myself and my wife running the office side of things. And yeah, they're literally, we're fully booked out on a repeating recurring revenue basis.
In the early days, how did you start?
So in the early days, we were a residential gardening company. And I first started out, I think the first week in business, I was actually splitting my time 50-50 between gardening and landscaping. Took on a landscaping project and I built my gardening round. And I was doing that to try and sustain each other. So I'd tell the landscaping jobs I'll be on that one this week, doing gardening the next week, and sort of it worked. And the landscaping helped to support the lack of garden sort of maintenance. And then we grew from there. So very quickly I sort of noticed that actually, as I'm building both, I can't be on both. So literally when it got to the point of having more, like we had landscaping work coming in and we had our grounds maintenance, gardening building up, I then started trying to build teams. And that was, at first, it was using other subcontractors to help out.
How many years have you been going, for a bit of context?
So we have been going, this was our 10th year this year in business as Classic Gardens. And yeah, that's sort of how we started. We started splitting 50-50 and trying to manage both, but that was really difficult.
What was your background before you started the business?
My background before, my initial thoughts behind my career path was actually going into like personal training. I did sport and exercise science at college. But my dad, my granddad, my uncle, they were all involved in the gardening industry.
So that opened some doors for you?
100%, yeah. So even when I was at school, I remember way back, even when I was like 11, 12, I'd be doing like Saturdays, helping, going out on jobs, just got the bug for it like you do. And then, yeah, as I sort of went through that, I kind of went into the family business, was working amongst that. And when like either my uncle or my dad would be away, they would put the business over to me. And obviously at that point, I don't even think I was driving then. So I'd have to like get a driver, pay them. I was just learning the sort of cogs of the business, and I think that really gave me the bug for it. And then it got to a point like I was working actually with my uncle, and we was going to grow. Like we were sort of growing on, and we had the conversation. He didn't want the stress and the aggravation of growing a business, that and the other. So I kind of said, well, look, I want to kind of go and do my thing. Really amicable conversation. And he actually supported me in that. So the idea was that I was going to go down to maybe like 3 days a week, do a couple for myself, but it just sort of took off from there.
Why did you use subcontracting?
So in the early days of any business, you're trying to get revenue into the business. And obviously, like most gardening rounds, there was the seasonality of the round. So we would go along, get to sort of like October, November, and you hear the whole, oh, it's getting a bit wet, we don't want you, it's cold, there's not a lot to do. So I found myself literally looking at the diary going, oh, I've got a free day, this day, this day, this day. And I just started looking for different revenue streams. And one of them that I stumbled across was the winter gritting services and snow clearing. So we
the white gold.
That's it. So we actually started our subcontracting through gritting, and we got involved with a national company, and it would be on things like office blocks or NHS doctor surgeries. Just go there and you'll be given like a list, a route. They'll deliver you the salt and they give you the costs per site. And what that did, that sort of filled that gap between, okay, we're not working during the day, but we can work in the evening or at night.
What size was your team? Was it just you back then, or did you have other team members with you?
So I think at that point, we had 2 vans out at that point. And that was when I kind of got to the point of taking myself out of one at a time. So I would be in the landscaping project. And it's really funny because we talk about subcontracting, but I was using the subcontractor model on some of our jobs. So I would bring people in. So if I needed like a brick wall doing, I'd bring in a bricklayer. So it kind of, I'd already dabbled in that sort of area. And then, the gritting came along and we got involved with these national companies with regards to delivering their gritting. And the more we delivered for them, the more they were coming to us and saying, well, you're delivering it, it's not giving us any hassle. And then I built my own sort of subcontractor team delivering the gritting on the evenings.
Did that open up other avenues?
It did, with those national companies. So, I mean, something that we actually got involved in through that was something like the Queen's funeral. Got a call from one of the guys who we was doing the gritting for, because we had at the time we was on the Met Police contract, we had the DBS checks and the Met Police passes to get into the stations. And he called us up and he said, look, we need trustworthy teams, go down to Buckingham Palace. I thought it was a hoax call at first. He was like, do you want to go to Buckingham Palace? We need people to take the floral tributes off of Buckingham Palace and put them in Green Park. And I was like, yeah, I suppose. Like, at that point, I mean, we just learned the Queen died, all that sort of stuff. So I then put my subcontracting hat on and I'm like, okay, well, there's this opportunity. I potentially don't have enough guys to go and do it, but I know enough guys. So I asked other people. I think we managed to get a team of about 10 together.
I'd say a lot of people would jump at that opportunity.
Yeah, they did. I think it's more experience. It was a really, really, it was a special experience, even just being there and working it all the way up to the funeral and doing that. It was a proud moment to be able to do that. But again, it's the opportunities that opens up, So, so from that, we kind of grew. I think at one point we had, on the gritting, we had 150 sites that we were doing of an evening for this company, and we were delivering it.
How were you managing that in terms of software teams and just delivering that service?
So what a lot of national companies do is, because they'd almost never see you, so they run their own central software, so they have it made. And what they'll do is they'll upload the sites. So from my perspective, I would then need to take it from their software and put it into our own, either something like, we actually use Jobber to run our business. You'll either put it into Jobber, or I think back at that point I was doing it literally on like paper. I was literally getting it down, postcodes, sending maps via WhatsApp, all that sort of stuff.
Was that hard to manage?
It was hard to manage, so the back office side of it, I was actually, at that point, I was doing a round, and I'd have other people out on rounds, and they'd be ringing me up like, do you know the gate code for this place? So it's like I've just have like headphones in or on Bluetooth, just going around like a maniac, just making it happen. So I don't think there was any method to the madness. It was just getting the jobs done to make sure that we could invoice for them and get them in. But yeah, as we then learned about different digital softwares and stuff like that, that definitely made it easier and easier to prove that we'd kind of been to the places as well. So
what software did you look at? Did you only look at Jobber, or did you look at anything else?
I think I had a trial on Jobber, and I think I had a trial. There was a couple of others. I think things like ServiceMate and a few others that were like in the industry, but they didn't. You know when something doesn't tick all the boxes? And then I was looking at Jobber. I mean, even now we use Jobber to do everything: payroll, logging in and out of jobs, everything that it covers.
Do you know, I was talking to Mark from the Lonologist last night, because we were talking about a podcast that's he's coming over for our podcast. And do you know that Jobber now has so whenever your guys land at the job, they obviously get tracked in and out.
Yep.
Well, you can run reports now on how long that job is for, so as you can see exactly how much money that job's making you. Which really,
so how long they've been on site.
Yeah, how long they've been on site, and then if you have an hourly rate in Jobber, then all of a sudden you can you can see that information in real time. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped us. We don't currently use Jobber to invoice, but it's something that we was really looking at. At the moment, we use like QuickBooks for that, just because it does all of the like the end of year accounting and things like that on QuickBooks. And I think Jobber doesn't. I don't think Jobber integrates with QuickBooks currently. Does it? It does, as far as I know, it does. But yeah,
I've learned something. Maybe I'll have to look into that. Yeah. So yeah,
my bookkeeper does me in the year. So because I'm dyslexic with numbers, the less I have to deal with numbers, the better.
No, 100%. No, it does. Like I say, Jobber does cover everything, and that's what made it sort of easier to manage those teams. And then, like I say, from there we kind of one of the reasons I looked at it, so we started filling the gaps, and then they'd ask us, okay, could you cover, I don't know, doing this site, like it might be a Tesco's, need a load of bushes cut in or something like that. And for me, what it done for us as a business was it gave us a portfolio of work that we could then show other potential clients. So we weren't necessarily going to be stepping on anyone's toes, but let's just say your van is at a Tesco's and somebody drives past from an office and they're like, hang on a minute, that company looks after a Tesco's or a whatever it may be.
Do you think it made you look bigger than what you maybe were?
100%. And that's something I did try and do that from like early on by having like the landline number, info at email addresses, website. So it was all funneled through like a professional avenue. I tried to leave my like mobile numbers out of it as much as possible, although like site managers and stuff end up with it. So you do end up with it, it's inevitable. But yeah, for me, it was about the image of how you looked. And then, yeah, like coming on from being with these national companies, we then started attracting things like doctors' surgeries and schools and things like that, and getting a taste for that work. So where we had the experience and the kit, we'd go and do these sites, and then it opened up the door for us to be tendering for our own work and understanding the model. So even if we, like at that point, if we didn't have like the staff, for example, we understood the subcontracting model, so we could.
You don't have staff, you can bring staff in. You know exactly how it works. And tell me this here for contracts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. How much would you layer contracts if you were bringing subcontractors in, and if you were looking to work for a large body that's going to hand out subcontracting work? How much contracts and paperwork's involved in that for anyone that doesn't know?
So the main thing with commercial work is like the insurances, the paperwork, the accreditations, like RAMs, like, do you know what I mean? All the stuff that goes with it. If you want to go and spray on a site, you need to be making sure you're giving your correct licenses in and everything like that. DBS checks is a massive one, and that not that it limits. Obviously, you don't want criminals anyway. Like if they're going to be robbing from you and stuff, it allows you to vet the people that are working for you, but it shows that you're investing into your company and your people are trustworthy. So for me, it set us up really well because you had to have that stuff to do the subcontracting and give all your documentation in. So we already had it. almost like a ready-made template,
And
to go.
for your health and safety and whatnot, do you have an outside body? Did you have an outside body before? Do you have an outside body now?
So
that does your HR and health and safety and whatnot?
In the early days, you just can't afford to subcontract it out. It's just they charge a lot. Even when you're looking at like things like SEO and things like that, you're sort of thinking, well, I need to get more work in, but this guy's charging me X, Y, and Z, and it's a real minefield because you're trying to delve into somewhere where some of the bigger players have got a lot of budget for their marketing, and you're trying to get that type of work, but you haven't got the budget behind to kind of advertise.
And the infrastructure as well.
That's it. A real tricky.
What do you need to have, like paperwork wise, for to do subcontracting? What the companies expect, and do you have like do you have an outside HR?
That's it. Yeah, HR would.
Or health and safety.
So when it came to then like doing the subcontracting work, we kind of researched what we needed. We did it all in house at first, and kind of tried to run it past people. Like we might have had like somebody who worked in I don't know, facilities management place, but we weren't quite big enough for them. They could cast an eye over it and say, well, yeah, that's suitable. And then as we've grown, we have sort of contracted so bigger tenders now. We have done some like support services. So they will actually look for tenders for us and sort of try to outsource the procurement side of tenders, and they'll come to us, say, are you interested in this? And then they'll assist us in the tender process. But that's only now. So back then I was scouring through like your gov.com websites and things like that, and trying to have a look for those opportunities through that. But I think like our sort of like transition from there, I think one of our residential customers actually worked as a receptionist on a doctor's surgery, and that was our first real sort of go to quote a commercial place and win that contract. So it gave us a taste of, well, hang on a minute, we've been doing it over here. I've now used the same RAMs and everything that I've used over here on this. This could be, we could do this. And I know the margins are bigger over here anyway, and we're working on a lower margin. So let's explore that avenue.
How do your profit margins differ between subcontracting and working for yourself?
Obviously, when you're first doing subcontracting, the main key point is you're doing it because you want to get the revenue into the business. Now, you don't want to be working for nothing, and you need to be making sure that you're profitable. And one thing that a lot of small businesses do in the first instance is they just don't know their numbers. So we all go out, we go, blimey, we made X, Y, and Z on the day, and we think that that's what we've made kind of thing. And it's a real sort of sticky patch. So when we started subcontracting, for me, it was about trying to increase like the turnover into the business, but not be a busy fool. So I was looking at it and going, okay,
quiet time.
Yeah, it's the quiet time.
I want to fill in that quiet time.
Like almost you'd rather 100% of something than like a percentage of nothing. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, we'd go into it and you'd sit down basically at the start of this year before the season. So around sort of, I'd probably say about August time, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe July, August time, they'll come out, have a meeting with you and they'll run through the numbers for the year. And you base it on a round by round basis. So really like simply I was doing it, I'm paying this person X, it costs me this much in fuel, they're paying me X, am I making a profit? Obviously I have to take into account my time managing it and things like that. But don't get me wrong, the profit margins are a lot smaller when you're subcontracting than when you're doing it for yourself, just by default. One of the things that we did as a company, and this isn't for everybody, but we got to a point where we were growing as a company organically ourselves and getting to the point where we liked to do the subcontracting and gritting and things like that. And it was supporting our business through the winter months. But it got to the point where I was like, well, hang on a minute, if I don't do this, the gritting, I'm losing out revenue here. But then I could fill it with other jobs, but I haven't got those yet. So what I would say is to anybody taking on subcontracting is, and I would have done this earlier on if I'd known this now, but always don't be afraid to go back to them, because otherwise you ended up finding yourself in a really low paying gig that you are just sustaining, and all you're doing is facilitating the job. You're paying for it. So you might look at it at the end of the year and go, oh, actually we turned over 40 grand on this, but it cost us 39 to operate. Oh, I've made £1,000 all winter. But your cash flow has sort of carried you through. So yeah, don't be afraid to go back to the bigger companies.
How soon would you go back to the bigger companies? When?
I would have the conversation. So now we are still involved with gritting companies and stuff as a business, but we go back to them immediately after they give us the sheet and say that these are your sites for the year, for the winter, and I'll basically say to them that this isn't sustainable on this price, and you just have that negotiation like anything in business. There's always, like, they've priced one price, they're giving you a margin. There's that bit in between, the meat in between. It's going to them. But if you've got to, like, some subcontractor models, they get you to buy the salt and things like that, so that it's completely hands off for them. At that point, you should go back to them and say, well, if that's the case, you should be working on, the margin should be the other way around. We should have a bigger margin to operate the job, profit, materials, and then they should be taking just a management fee of like 10%, say. So you should push back. And I think from that perspective, I think a lot of the subcontracting, so the national companies that we've subcontracted for have actually respected that and thought, well, actually, these guys now, they know what they're doing. They've been doing this a long time, but they're actually coming back to us with sensible. There's no point going back going, no, I'm not doing it for that. I want 100 quid to do that. It's like, there are...
Needs to be measurable.
The issue with the industry when you're dealing with bigger companies is sometimes it's a race to the bottom price. And
how do you stop that? So how do you stop the race to the bottom?
It's a difficult one. It's an industry problem, especially with like the gritting industry. There's a lot of people trying to go to, because there's basically, you'll have the big management companies. They're then almost like subcontracting down to the national companies. They're then subcontracting down to you. So there's a lot of hands to feed. Again, we've now more recently got our own gritting sites and sort of companies. I think like last year we was facilitating some of the Greg sites and things like that through our own in-house gritting, and through other management companies we do gritting as well ourselves now. Far more profitable, and we also like sell things like the salt to our sites, stock up their bins, and there's other revenue streams that we've made from that. But yeah, the race to the bottom is difficult.
For anybody that wants to get into winter gritting, what advice would you give them?
Depending where you're at with your business, make sure you go into it with your eyes open, understand what you're getting into. There is risk factors, like if you've got people going out and they don't do the sites properly, someone slips, you will have a claim against you from the company that you're doing it for. So it depends on what risk you want to do. But for us, it was always monitored. The sites were always done, and like documentation, pictures, everything like that. And we actually, one story on that, there was a school that a girl came out the door, slipped at a school, and we could prove through the images and the CCTV that was there that we had done the site, and the claim was just null and void. We'd done all of our due diligence to prevent the slip.
Would you take a picture every time you were at a site?
100%, yeah. So for again, going back to Jobber, we do that on every site. So we run almost like a timeline of events in the notes section of every job. Take a picture before and after you've done something. It just protects you, really.
Jobber automatically tracks you in and out as you arrive 100%. And leave that job as well.
Yeah. So even from a time perspective, drops the GPS points. We do run trackers on our vans as well, just to sort of back that up. And that's more of a perspective, not to sort of like watch the guys where they are, what they're doing. It's if a customer rings up and says, "Oh, are your guys nearly here?" I can get it in real time and give information.
For long trims, a lot of customers would say, "Oh, was he here? We didn't see him.
He was only here 5 minutes.
we didn't see him, or we didn't hear him." Well, yeah. We were like, "Look, if you hear us, then we're doing something wrong."
Yeah. We had an instance of that where Jobber really helped us out. Where a customer, we got on the site at like say 7:30, they got in at 8:30, and we was off the site at 9:30. So we'd done our like 2-hour visit. Say, and they were like, "They're only here for an hour." And I was like, "No, actually, you was only there for an hour. We was there for 2." So we was able to, both with the GPS, our tracker, and the Jobber images, support the invoice and get paid. So it really does. It does support the business in that way.
Do you find some companies trying, like you're saying, they were saying, "Oh, you've only been here." Did you find some companies try and use that to try and get rid of you, or to try and reduce the price?
The customers that we've got now, we've got what you would refer to as like your proper commercial schools and office blocks and things like that. And then you've got like, they're still commercial sites, but they're like flat blocks, but like residential communal. And you get a lot of characters in those blocks, and some of them might be very strong-willed, and they want to use a gardener from a house that they might have come from or something like that. And they do sly little stuff to to sort of hinder that. But as long as your rapport is very good with the management companies, that's your client. Yeah. Like if you use that, they should really be going through the management company. Any issues that are raised, then come to us. For me, growing from doing subcontracting to doing the commercial work ourselves is all about building systems, teams, processes. That's a non-negotiable if you're moving into that sector, because that's what protects your revenue. It also, like for us, we split all of our clients. It's an annual amount split across 12 months, payable across the year. So, like, there'll be less to do in the winter, but more to do in the summer. But we have a sustainable amount of income coming through. It just helps with things like salaries, knowing what you've got coming in, just controlling your revenue.
What tips would you give someone that wants to break into commercial work, that maybe perhaps doing just residential and they want to break in? What do you think would be the best way? Or
so I think one of the best ways is to like make yourself known in that industry. So whether that be take yourself to events, it might be going to something like Groundsfest, for example, like branded up. Social media really does work as well. So putting yourself on social media, showing what you're doing, and that kind of goes hand in hand with if you were to go down the subcontracting route, you can get like images, pictures, videos of you cutting a big long hedge or whatever it might be. Put that onto your social media or your website and use it as content. It also builds up a portfolio to show people. So you may want to fire in like an email campaign to somebody, but with like a load of commercial images, like done up like as a commercial approach.
In terms of knocking on doors or for sending cold emails, or would you think like LinkedIn, think cold emails work? Think knocking on doors is probably the most popular way?
Yeah, I would say like the personable approach has worked for us. And I would say, so it's really strange. So obviously you hear a lot of people saying like, oh, we don't advertise, it's all word of mouth, right? And that is a very good way of doing it. You have to market yourself, because no one's going to shout about you otherwise. So your first customer you've marketed from, like you weren't walking down the street and they went, you look like a gardener, I'll come and have you. Do you know what I mean? So you have to market yourself in some way, shape or form. Word of mouth will come. It's even helped us. So through schools, for example, we took on, I think, 2 schools in a local area. I think we're now on 16 in like a local area. And most of those were through recommendations from one site manager to the other.
But you still have to open that door.
You still have to open the door. And I would say, my wife will vouch for this, but I've actually been at weddings before, and I'll have a business card on me, and somebody will mention that they might be a facilities manager for something. I'll be like, well, if you ever need a thing, she's like, we're at a wedding. And I was like, literally, we're always, like, as a business owner, you are always switched on. If there's an opportunity, you hear about it. It's
I picked up one of my best customers on a flight home from Tenerife.
There you go. It literally is. It's so valuable, and it's asking. One thing that I always do, whether they're residential or commercial, obviously more so if you're going to a residential house, I would always ask that person what they do for work. And it might sound like a really like invasive question. I don't care whether they've got a Ferrari or a Ford on the drive. The reason I'm asking that question is because I want to know what opportunities there might be outside of this transaction that we've done now. So yeah, always staying switched on. Networking is massive, and you literally don't know who the next person you talk to is going to be, and the opportunity that is there.
I totally get that myself, because I talk to most of my own customers, and I'd always ask them what they're doing. Because it just as well, it gives you a better understanding of how much money they might want to spend.
It does as well. It does highlight to you what they may want to invest in their projects, 100%. But yeah, again, like, and it also opens up, like, nobody knows what you do for work without you telling them. You know, so you don't look at somebody and go, oh, he looks like a lawyer or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So
these days I'm also looking for guests for a podcast.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, what do you do for work? Oh, do you want to come on the podcast?
We actually interviewed someone a couple of days ago, and it sort of pretty much went like that.
Was it?
He owns a scaffolding company. He has like 70 or 80 staff.
Yeah.
And he's one of my customers. That's how. That's how I got him on. Right.
With doing the commercial work, what do you think is the biggest mistake small business owners make trying to get into that side of work?
I would say, so it's, even from my own experience, is not wanting to scale. So like not wanting to put the office staff in place to support those contracts. Literally, so as a small business, the common theme you hear is, oh, I'm so busy on all the sites, I haven't got time to put the invoices out, or I haven't got time. That just doesn't run in the commercial world. So commercial clients will actually get more annoyed with you if you're not on top of your paperwork side of things than if you're doing an average job. So their grounds, they're not being penalised by Betty or Doris or whatever face to face. They might have complaints and things like that, but they run on like budgets and monthly payments and things like that. And if you're like 2 or 3 invoices late, for example, not only does it hinder your cash flow, but it mucks all their books up. And the woman in the office is going to go mad. And why have we got to pay them out X amount on this month? And it just goes mad. So consistency, growing the team is one of the key things, because you can't take on commercial work just yourself. If you're a one-man band and you're looking to go into commercial work, I wouldn't do that if you're looking to stay small, because with commercial work, a lot of places, they'll have multiple sites per customer. So, for example, a school, we took on one site for a school. They're actually a trust of like 14 schools. So although that one site looks good to you, you can't then turn around to that customer and say, I only want you to do your school. They're looking for a solution to a problem. And that is literally
you want to be the problem solver.
100%. And what we actually do on that basis is so as a company, we've actually become more of almost like a facilities company for these customers. So people will come to us, and then we'll use our small network of like maybe pressure washing contractors, tree surgeons, anything like that you need for the outside. The customer can come to us, and we have an outlet. And literally on that, like we give them enough work that they're giving us preferable rates, and we can still build our commission, if you like, into that.
Work leads to work.
100%. That's it. And in a way, it might sound sort of a bit controlling, but I don't really want anyone else on my sites that I don't trust. So if someone else comes onto the site, they're a pressure washer, well, they're probably going to know another gardener, and they go, oh, like this looks a bit here. This, like, do you know what I mean? If more eyes on your projects, although we're delivering and the customer's happy, I would rather be able to manage and control that site for the time that we've got it and supply all of their services. There's opportunities in every client. So
with going for the subcontracting work, you say you work for bigger companies. Do they tender the job so you don't have to? So they come to you, subcontract you, and then you're subcontracting the work out again. So you're not actually tendering; you're just filling their need.
100%, yeah. So we are, with the bigger companies, they have their own teams. They'll win the jobs, and then they'll get field teams to carry out the contract. With us, we now have to tender for it, or like go out, view it, tender it, work all of the contracts out. And that's one thing that I would say, if you're looking to go into commercial work, be prepared to invest a lot of time. Again, this is why you have to build the teams, because I spend a lot of my time managing my teams, but also going out and trying to acquire new work. So whether you look at it as wasted time or whatever, if I win the contract, brilliant, I'm getting paid for that time. If I don't win the tender, I've not wasted the time. It's all valuable experience, but I don't get paid for that time. You can't charge them for putting in a tender. So that's one thing that you just got to be prepared to do. Like if you're going out, for example, you're sacrificing your weekend, say you've got a busy round, you want to break into commercial work, you use the Saturdays to do your tendering, it's not the correct way to do it, because you're going to be wasting your Saturdays if you don't get them where you could have had other revenue. Whereas if you had people doing the work and you can go and do that job, your wages are built into your pricing structure. So that's like one of the things about commercial work is never take, like as a director of a company, make sure that you factor in for your time and your wages. Everyone's wages should be factored into your pricing structure, and your profit is for your company. That's one of the most common things I hear is like, oh, yeah, we made X this year. And I was like, okay, well, how much did you like take out of that? And they're like, oh no, that is what like I've earned. And I'm like, so you actually made nothing as a company. So that's one of the key things in the industry, is massively understanding your numbers to make sure that you're working you're keeping up with the pricing model. Obviously, you can see it like around anyway. If you might want to do a bit of market research, you might cheekily ask someone, do you know what I mean? Oh, can you provide a quote for this job or whatever? And you're never going to actually use it, but you're getting a bit of pricing modeling. But from that perspective, yeah, making sure that you're factoring in your time into doing the tenders into your pricing structure, so your salary is paid for that time. So you're going out.
Do it within your working week.
100%, I would, and that's the best way to do it.
Somebody gave me a bit of advice whenever I first started, and they said to me, Robbie, if you can't make your enough to sustain yourself in your 9 to 5, then you're not charging enough, or you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having to do it in your free time, well, then there's something wrong.
100%. I see it all the time. So a lot of people, and again, Instagram is rife with it. There'll be a lot of people like they're videoing themselves just finishing up at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's like, oh, we're hustling and all this sort of stuff. You're busy. Like, but why are you busy? Like you're fair play if you're doing it to try and get ahead, so that you're, I don't know, whatever you're doing up a project or whatever it is, you want to get ahead. But 9 times out of 10, these people are so overrun because they either don't have the team behind them, they're trying to do so much all themselves, that they are working till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
I'm going to say I'm probably wearing that hat myself at the minute.
Yeah, nice. That's what I mean. Yeah. So literally,
but it can only go on for so long.
It's not sustainable. That's the main key word. And I even say it to the guys when they come into our business and they come for an interview. I'll always ask somebody what they're looking for as a salary. 9 times out of 10, it will be like higher than what they've had in other jobs or whatever it is, and I will know that. But I will offer them a salary that is sustainable throughout the whole year, because one of the things that happens in our industry is with the seasonal peaks and troughs and not having that sustainable income, a lot of people will have you in for maybe 6 to 8 months, and they'll say, look, sorry, the work's died down, I've got to let you go, but there's a job back here in March. But that doesn't allow somebody to build a career in grounds maintenance or gardening.
It's really hard.
And you lose good workers because of that.
Totally lose them, yeah.
I would rather be able to say to somebody, look, okay, I know you're asking for this, but if we meet here, which is just under what you were asking for, I can sustain that for longer. I could pay you more, but for a less period of time. It's as broad as it's long. But I want people to be in our business for as long as they want to be within the business, as long as they're a good worker.
How do you keep your team motivated?
It's difficult at times, and I would imagine they sort of look at me sometimes and say, oh, like, he's just sitting at home and whatever he's doing, but can trust you, I'm not. There's literally probably, I'd say, a good like 60% of the stuff that people don't see that's really important to the business, and it's completely unseen. But people will think, oh, that's all right, he gets to go here and he's doing this opportunity. I would say a good 80% of the opportunities that I go to are mostly to do with networking for business. So it might look like you're going away somewhere here. Like even today, I put in to one of the guys. I was on the plane. He thinks I'm going like Ibiza or something. I'm like, no, I'm coming here. I'm doing a podcast. But even this, it exposes our business. Obviously, coming onto the podcast.
This is a very different way to advertise yourself.
100%, yeah, that's it. So, but and also it gives back a little bit. So there's a lot of people. I was saying earlier, like off camera, we get a lot of DMs. We haven't got a huge following, but we've got an engaged following, and a lot of them will ask us questions. And at the moment, like I'm sort of trying to get back to people here and everywhere. And that, I mean, I was saying
it's hard
to you,
find the time.
It is. It's hard to find the time, but maybe in the future it might be something that I go into, maybe as like a monetized thing, offering a bit of advice and consultancy, because I actually really enjoy the starting point of businesses. So although we've grown ours to where we are now, and I really enjoy growing businesses, but
how big would you like to grow your business?
I've always said, the phrase I've always used is, as long as it makes money, it makes sense. So if we got a large contract or a large tender and it made sense and it made money, it sort of uncapped probably if it made sense. Like as long as I could put the right teams in place. I don't want to be a busy idiot. I've seen a lot of companies that don't grow their teams and they've got to a certain point and it just becomes chaos. And you know when you're at that ceiling because within your own business it seems like it's being a bit chaotic. And then you know whether you've got to like invest in another team or you've got to do that. but also make sure that you've got it at the right time, because it might seem chaotic just for like, I don't know, a week in the summer when everyone's asking for stuff, but you also don't want to invest in van, tools, staff, and then like a month later it's like, oh, hang on a minute, we haven't got any work for this team. So you want to make sure it's actually sustainable growth.
While we're talking about investing in tools,
yeah,
how do you finance your tools? Do you believe in ban outright? Do you finance? Do you lease?
So I've been to a lot of like networking events, mastermind events, and one of the key things that I've taken away from a lot of it is we use garden machinery as tools, and a lot of people use money as a tool, investors and things like that. And if you put that into our industry, for an example, if you had a pot of, say, I don't know, £10,000, you could put like £1,000 deposit down on 10 things, and they could all be out earning you money. Or you could buy one of those things and buy one £10,000 thing, and that could earn you money. One of them brings you in 10 times the return, and one of them just gives you like your money back. You got to make it back. So with regards to, do I prefer to buy outright? I have got a bit of a split with our tools, but that's more down to like where, like, so we bought a tractor and a cutter from a football club. Your finance company won't finance private sales, so you'd have to buy it through a machinery sales place. This tractor and cutter, they were moving over to 3G surface, so they didn't need it, and we managed to acquire it, but we had to buy that as a bank transfer. But I would say, as a rule of thumb, I would rather finance the tools, build it into your pricing structure, and then it's being paid for out of your as a business expense. There's also other tax benefits to it and stuff as well. If you do it through like a finance lease, you can get like the VAT payments and do it over time, and it's all deductible.
What other tips would you give businesses that want to try and be more, obviously this isn't financial advice, but what other tips would you give businesses that want to try and save or be more tax efficient, ban tools? Is there anything?
I would say always get a really good accountant. Like financial advice is one of the key things that will. So a good accountant should save you their own money and more. So some people look at it. I mean, we're actually in the process of speaking to some accountants and stuff at the moment, because you'll get accountants that are good for you when you're in your first stages, but then as you grow into teams, they might not serve you as they once were, because that's not what they want to do. They want to do end of year accounts, not corporation tax, X, Y, and Z. So always make sure that your accountant's able to give you advice as well, because there's a difference between just an accountant who puts the numbers in and reports them, and somebody who can give you financial advice. Because there is a difference. An accountant will take you so far, but the people that we're speaking to at the moment they can give you financial advice, so give you tax efficient planning. If your end of year is coming up, make sure that you're buying tools at the right time. Like even with your VAT, like making sure, again, if you're buying a machine, but you're buying it like after your VAT quarter, you're kind of you're paying the VAT out, but then you're buying this machine that you've got to pay VAT on, and it for cash flow, that would just be a nightmare. So yeah.
I'm going to give you a wee question again. You mentioned the VAT, and just something popped into my head. Obviously, those big companies are VAT registered, and for smaller companies that perhaps aren't VAT registered, and the subcontracting, do you think it's worthwhile going VAT registered if you're going to subcontract or not? Or do you think...
So if you're in the commercial world, VAT is almost like it's not non-existent, but it's because everybody's either paying the VAT or claiming the VAT. You always work on the before VAT amount. So the same with the subcontracting companies, they'll give you the figure, and then on the bottom of their contracts, it will be VAT to be added if applicable. So you can work for these people without being VAT registered. If I knew where we were going to be heading now, I probably would have set up VAT registered almost sort of as we started, because you can. I mean, not a lot of people know, but you can actually go VAT registered before you reach the threshold. You can start your company and be limited.
Because you're in the VAT registered world.
100%, yeah. So it depends on where you're entering into. A lot of people, because when you first start out, you're obviously building up receipts and paying for stuff, this, that, and the other. And you can actually deduct that when you go VAT registered, you can deduct it. I think it's back like 3 years and 6 months for services. So you can deduct these things from your VAT when you first go registered. But yeah, if you're in the early days and you're going, right, I want to start a commercial grounds maintenance business, there's no difference. If you want to go VAT registered, you're charging VAT, you're paying VAT, and it's in that world. It's sort of you're working on the pre-VAT amount.
If a company was to look at you and you were VAT registered or not VAT registered, even if you were small, you hadn't reached the threshold, do you think it makes you look bigger if you're VAT registered? And that'll be another reason.
So obviously the VAT threshold, I think it's gone up now. 90. It's like 90,000. But if, for example, and this is one of the things in the early days before we were VAT registered, I think we didn't win jobs based on not being VAT registered, because one, the company that's buying your services, in a weird way, you're actually cheaper to them by being VAT registered, because they can claim your VAT amount back off of their VAT. So it's, for me, they look at you as, well, if you're not VAT registered, you haven't reached the VAT threshold yet. So what experience have you got? You might be going for a contract that might be 100,000 a year with them. I would say the perception is that no one customer wants to be your biggest client, because they're putting too many eggs in your basket kind of thing. So I think a lot of people would rather you be VAT registered, which makes you then look like, well, okay, I'm giving him a 30 grand account here. He can manage that because he's already surpassed the VAT threshold. A lot of it is all about image, I would say, making sure that these people know that you can handle the work that they're bringing to you.
I'm going to go back to marketing as well. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is LinkedIn to get contracts if you want to subcontract?
So LinkedIn is a very powerful tool with regards to like if you want to open or try and open the doors. I personally have never fired in like the whole generic, oh, do you want to go for a coffee or something like that. I just find it really cheesy, like and whatnot. But it's a very good tool to find out who people are. So you can type in, I don't know, say I use Tesco's for example. If you want to go facilities manager, Tesco's, maybe even Tesco's Hertfordshire or something like that, and you'll find out like who that regional manager is. Well, then you can start approaching like, okay, let's find emails, let's find like the office, for example. Go to the office and say, oh, hi, is X, Y, and Z around? I just wanted to have a discussion about grounds maintenance. 9 times out of 10, with a name, it will open the door for you. But if you go in there and say, oh, could I just speak to the grounds, like whoever's in charge of the grounds? It's be like, oh, not another one. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, there's almost like they're trained to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, anyone who comes and they don't ask for me, don't let them in because they're just like fishing around. But yeah, I would say because they also then you've done your research on the company, you've took time to actually, you're interested in it. And I would also say though as well, like don't necessarily feel, one of the most important things that I learned to say in business is the word no, because everyone's a yes man when you first start. So, oh, can you do this? Yeah. Oh, can you do this? Yeah. And then you find yourself just like, oh no, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. Like, or you run out of time in your diary. So for me, it was about making sure that you pick what kind of commercial work you want to do as well, because things like the schools, for example, they have like little garden areas and things like that you can make look nice. Whereas a lot of my guys, would they be happy doing car park maintenance? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? And it's not really nice. It's not that's not the sort of work that we want to do. So making sure that you're not just saying yes to facilities companies, oh, can you cut this verge and can you do this? You want to make sure it's an enjoyable work that, do you know what I mean? You can see, our industry is very visual. Do you know what I mean? So
for your younger self, what advice would you give yourself if you wanted to grow your business quicker, or what would you change?
I would say to myself, don't do landscaping. That's what I'd say to myself, because
it's hard on you.
Yeah, it's mentally tough, it's physically tough, it's financially tough. There's people that will come and do works for you subcontracting, they won't do it right, and then when you call them back, they won't come back. It's a real sticky, and it's also like unregulated. So like you'll have somebody who comes in, although you've got like the different bodies that sort of offer things. there's no way of like checking, like if that person says they can put a patio down for you, you're going, okay, well, show me a picture of a patio you've done, and you kind of have to say, well, that looks good, but this one's not. Do you know what I mean? So it makes sure you're doing your due diligence, and also you just can't leave those projects. Like, it ties you up. If you, at the end of the day, you're ultimately the customer's paying you, but you're paying for this to be done, whether you're using subcontractors or not. You can't turn around at the end of the job and say, it wasn't me who did it. You have to stand by your work. And yeah, landscaping is something I think that from a cash flow perspective really held us back as a company, because we tied up a lot of money in projects. So whereas I might have been able to use that on kit or focus my attention on that, was focusing maybe on the landscaping because of the bigger price tags and sort of, oh, they're going to get me to do this job for 40 grand. The numbers are massive, but realistically, if you put it down on paper, the profit margins are practically identical. Whereas it's easier to manage teams doing, I've used the wrong word, easier, but it's more sustainable to manage the grounds maintenance, and also you've got recurring revenue as well. That's one of the key things in building a team and a business. You want money that's coming back to you each time, whereas landscaping, you have to market for the job, you have to go out and view the job, you have to buy the materials for the job, and then you do that all again for the next job, but you're not promised that job. Whereas with a contract, you've got 12 months,
you know exactly where you are all the time.
That's it, yeah. So those monthly figures repeat on each year. And
are most of your contracts on a 12-month basis? Or a rolling?
Yes, we've got 12-month basis. A lot of the council contracts, so we work for some of the local councils on some of their business parks, and a lot of those they'll try and get you really for 3 years at least, maybe with an option for one more like after that, and then they re-tender it out. But as long as you're doing a good job and you're there, they have to do the tendering process because it's public money. They'll allow you the 3 years, and then they have to tender it out for a fair tender and things like that. But yeah, as long as you're delivering, you're pretty much good.
Yeah. So tell us this here as we come to wrap up. What do you do for fun and stress release?
Well, yeah, I mean, running a business takes up a lot of your time. I've got 2 little daughters. Taking them out to places, like taking them swimming or jump parks and things like that. I mean, we actually, as a company, look after some football clubs and things like that, and I go and watch them sometimes, or sort of just go and do that. And I've just recently, I'm learning to ski, and I've kind of got into that. So I don't know, maybe that might be my my new thing. I've been like, right, I'm stressed, I'm off to the slope. Yeah, no, I would say making sure you give yourself enough time out of the business as well. And again, by building teams, you can do that. So taking yourself away, whether it just be for a weekend away or just a weekend off, or just to do that. But yeah, weirdly, I don't get overly stressed. I think I've kind of learnt to deal with that, because there's no point in complaining about stress that you've grown yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of, if you're stressed, there's a problem, and you need to find a solution to that problem, whether that be that's not the right client for you, so they need to go, or whether you need a different team member, or whether you need to grow your team to alleviate that stress.
So earlier you mentioned about wanting to do consultancy. Is that something you're going to focus on going forward?
Yes, I mean, I'm happy to open up as well on this podcast. If anyone is looking for that sort of support or anything like that, and they're looking to maybe just from like a mentor side of things or just a bit of advice, yeah, we would open up the conversation on doing that. I've not put anything out formally yet, but it's definitely something that I would entertain the option of if people wanted that support and they were willing to put their sort of what I tend to find is if people put a monetization on something, they're more focused and more value, 100%. And yeah, it's definitely something that I'm looking to formalize in the future. But yeah, we'd open up the DMs for anyone who's interested.
Super. Listen, thank you very much for coming over and getting up your time.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Cheers.
Good man.